everybody? What's going on? It's Custom.exe, and today what I have for you is a $600 strict budget PC build, right? So you're not spending more than $600 for the tower. Doesn't come on a monitor, mouse and keyboard, stuff like that. Just the tower. This is before, well, not before, this is after taxes. Okay, so if you live in a state that you gotta pay taxes, this is after taxes, all right? So basically what we got here is the link, which will also be in the description if you want to check out the build, look at the parts. Any parts that I can get affiliate Amazon links to will also be in the description. If you want to buy them through that link, give me a little kickback, I greatly appreciate it. So like I said, $600 build. And most people in this case will probably think, if they've been in the PC community, they'll probably say something like, oh, okay, he bought all used parts. And actually I didn't. PC parts, certain parts, have gotten so cheap you don't need to go to the used market to build a pretty decent gaming PC geared towards 1080p, ultra settings, 60 FPS at the least, right? So let me explain the build a little bit. Right now, as you can see, if we get, there we go. Our estimated wattage is about 344 watts. So this just proves like we're not using like old parts that use up a lot of power back in the day. We got new parts. The power usage is super low before you like overclocking, things like that. But for the most part, it's super low, right? And so with the $600 PC build geared towards 1080p, 60 FPS, high settings, I definitely wanted a 4-core, 8-thread CPU. And at a good price, Intel didn't have any CPUs in that category. So we went with, that was available, I should say, because they do have a CPU, but it wasn't available. I got a Ryzen 3 3100 quad-core CPU. This is a 4-core, 8-thread CPU, and we got that for $107. Next, went with an MSI B450 Gaming Plus Max motherboard. The Max simply means that it's ready for Ryzen 3000. So if it says 3000, if it says 3300X, 3400, 3600, 38, pretty much you get the picture. It's that's what the Max means for this motherboard. So I didn't have to do no BIOS updates, nothing like that. I can just put the CPU in, start it up after I plug everything else in, and it'll be ready to go. And we got that motherboard for $118.76. Next, for gaming, you want no less than 8 gigabytes. And I did a poll recently, and I'll have a picture of it. But basically, I did a poll where most people thought a build geared towards 1080p, 60 FPS, playing on the highest settings for the latest AAA games, you're gonna need at least $800 for that build to get, you know, like 16 gigabytes of RAM, so on and so forth. So a lot of people might think that we got 8 gigabytes of RAM. Actually, we got 16. And then you go, okay, well, if you got 16, you probably got lower speed or a low speed RAM kit. And actually, we got a pretty decent speed RAM kit, 3200 CL16. And you're like, okay, well, if you got the decent speed and a good capacity, you probably paid a lot for it. And actually, no, we only paid $68.03 for it. So RAM has gotten really cheap nowadays. You can get a good capacity, a decent speed, and a decent cache latency for a pretty decent price. Now, with storage, a lot of people might look at the storage and be like, okay, you have to compromise somewhere. And I could have put a 1 terabyte hard drive and saved some money, honestly. But when you come into PC, you don't want to experience load times like you do on consoles. So we went with an SSD. And we got a 512 gigabyte SSD, which I think is a decent size to start off with. And then later on, you can add a 1 terabyte to your system for mass storage and games like you don't frequently play, and so on and so forth, and just uninstall games that you do want to swap out and stuff like that onto the SSD. And we paid $57.23 for that SSD. Next is a video card, and here's where I have a little bit of explaining to do. because the video card, we could have went with brand new from Newegg or Amazon, something like that. But a lot of the cards are either in this price category is either A, overpriced, B, old, or C, just not good enough to game at 1080p 60 highest settings. Okay, so I definitely wanted a video card with at least 6 to 8 gigabytes of RAM, which Nvidia and AMD both have cards around that same performance range, and we needed something that was at least a mid-range card, maybe 2-3 years ago, something like that. So what we went with, and I got this card from eBay. I bought it used, but I have gameplay that I'm gonna show later on in this video. You can see how the computer performs. I've already sold this computer to somebody. It's still working flawlessly, nothing wrong with it. But without further ado, we went with the RX 580 8GB video card, and we paid $138.21. Now, if you go look for RX 580 card anywhere besides eBay, you're probably going to see that this card is going for way higher than $138 brand new, and it's just not worth more than this at all. And before tax, I think I paid like $125, $127, something like that. But in total, I paid $138.21. Next, we went with the Cougar MX330 case. I gotta say, this case punches above its weight entirely. This case was actually a really kind of dreamy experience to build in. For the price that we paid under $50 for this case. Usually a case that's under $50, there's some compromises all over the place, or the case is like super old, and this case is still pretty modern. It's not like the newest, but it's still pretty modern, and we got it for the good price. It has a good airflow, and like I said, it was actually pretty nice building in it. It was a pretty good experience. So lastly, power supply. As you can see, it's definitely 80 plus certified. We didn't have to compromise on getting a power supply that's not 80 plus certified. So it has an efficiency rating that's high enough to be classified as 80 plus certified. And basically that just means how efficient it is drawing power from the wall and turning it into energy into your computer. So with that being said, we got the Thermaltake Smart 600 watt 80 plus certified power supply, and we paid under $60, which is okay. It's decent for the times that we're in, because most power supplies come from like China or Taiwan, and with importing taxes and things like that, prices have gone up and so on and so forth. So this power supply probably would have cost us like $40, maybe $45, $50, something like that before, but because of COVID and Donald Trump taxes that he imposed on importing goods and stuff like that, prices have went up. But this is the $600 build, and right now we're gonna cut to some gameplay on Apex Legends with it cranked all the way to high. I don't show the settings, but it's cranked all the way to high, and you can judge the FPS that you get for yourself. The metrics will be in the top right corner of the video right here, so make sure y'all look out for that. Don't judge me too much on the gameplay. It wasn't my normal setup, but it's nothing special. It's just pretty much just showing the kind of FPS you can expect. And I'm actually, when I was playing it, I was actually thoroughly surprised at the performance I was getting in Apex Legends, which is, you know, it can be kind of graphically demanding and CPU heavy. And like I said, this is a 4-core 8-thread CPU, a mid-range GPU from like 3 years ago, around that time, maybe even, you know, past that. But I was actually thoroughly surprised. So with that being said, here's the gameplay. Okay, here we are into the video, the gameplay. And as you can see, right now we're rendering a large part of the map because we're skydiving, and the FPS is hovering a little bit around 60 FPS. And like I said, this is all high settings. Now we're on the ground. we're getting like low 90s, high hundreds, 120, 130. I just saw. And again, I want to stress this is on high settings. Most people don't play Apex Legends on all high settings, but if you wanted to, you can still get more than 60 FPS if that's your target goal. But if you turn some settings down, and I don't have gameplay of that, but if you turn some settings down, you will get more FPS, or like a higher average and higher minimum FPS. You know, you wouldn't see those dips into the 90s so much, into the 70s or 80s, like as it's looking like right now. And so like I said, I was actually pretty impressed with how this build was performing. So I know some people might have some criticism, like, oh, well, this doesn't include Windows. Windows is essentially free. You don't have to pay for Windows. There are videos you can look up to go find how to get Windows for free. And you can also activate Windows for pretty cheap. You don't need $100 to, you know, activate Windows anymore. You can get an OEM key, and you can get them from eBay. You can get them from various other websites like SCD Keys, I believe it's called. Maybe Green Man Gaming. But there are places where you can go and get an activation code if you really want to activate your Windows 10 for pretty cheap, and you don't have to spend $100 to get Windows. So how cheap? Maybe $15, $20 at most. Like I said, if you go to eBay and you want to take a chance on eBay codes, not that there's something wrong with it necessarily, but they're kind of sketchy. You know, I've seen some keys go as low as like $3. So it's definitely something that you don't need to stress about. And even if you don't activate Windows, you don't miss out on updates. It's not like you don't have the full version of Windows, or you're going to get some kind of pop-up, hey, activate Windows, activate Windows. You're going to have a little watermark at the bottom right screen that says activate Windows, but that's it. It's nothing really too annoying or anything you can't really ignore. And if you play your games in full screen, you won't see that watermark. So just something to consider. And I know some people might even say like you shouldn't go used on buying parts, especially graphics cards, especially like the RX 580 because of the mining thing and so on and so forth. But when you're backed by the eBay guarantee that what you're paying for is what you're going to get, it's very low risk. And if you just read the description carefully of what you're buying, then you don't have too much to worry about, as long as it says that it's a functioning product, it's a fully functioning product, and you put it through its paces and so on and so forth. And any issues you have, you contact eBay immediately if you feel like something is wrong with the video card. So the gameplay is coming to an end pretty soon because I was super potato with this setup. As you can see, I had to change my DPI settings and so on and so forth. But this is how it performs. I'm blown away by how good it actually performed. I expected much worse performance, closer to like that 60 FPS. But as you can see, we're getting more than 60 FPS, and this is at, you know, ultra settings. And if you turn down some settings, we get even more FPS. So all links will be in the description, and if you want to buy some of these parts through the Amazon affiliate link, like I said, they will be in the description. And like I said, you don't have to spend a lot of money to, you know, get a good PC that's going to play games really well. You don't need to spend $800. And if you follow my guide on what parts to buy, or buy similar parts to the parts that I have, if you have any questions, leave them down below. But you will get that 1080p with this build. So again, all links will be in the description. This has been Codem.exe. If you liked the video, please like the video, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace out.